Good day, everyone. This is Jastral C. Ramagos, fourth year English student, together with this equally beautiful and intelligent classmates. And I welcome you all to this episode. Today, we will discuss the Cooperative Principle. Cooperative Principle is divided into four areas, and these are the number 1, key takeaways by gracious conversational maxims to be reported by Mr. Angelo Miparanon. Second, observations on the cooperative principle to be reported by Geraldine Orsinado. Third, we have cooperation and agreeableness to be reported by Miss Aurony Villanueva. Lastly, the lighter side of the cooperative principle to be reported by Mr. Rajan Soyosa. Before we proceed to the four areas of cooperative principle, let's discuss first what is cooperative principle. The basis of Grecian pragmatics is the cooperative principle. Make your conversational contribution such as is required at the stage at which it occurs, but accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange.
Hello everyone, I am Angelo Miparano and I am going to discuss the Grice 4 conversational maxims. So, let's start. When you write or talk, you generally do so with the purpose of conveying information. And the better you are at conveying information, the more likely people are to understand and accept what you have to say. However, despite the importance of being able to communicate effectively, and despite the frequency in which we attempt to do so, we often make mistakes when we try to convey information to others. Some of these mistakes are relatively minor and only make our communication slightly less effective than it could be, while other mistakes are relatively major and lead to serious misunderstandings. Fortunately, there are some principles, known as Grice maxims of conversation, that you can use, which will help you avoid these mistakes in communication.
There are four main maxims which revolve around the quantity, quality, and relevance of what people say, as well as on the manner in which they say it. While these maxims were originally meant to describe how people intuitively communicate, they can be used to actively guide the way you communicate in various situations. As such, in this video, you will learn about the maxims of conversation and see what you can do in order to implement them in practice, so you can make your conversation or communication as effective as possible. So first maxim is the maxim of quantity, or be informative. So there are two maxims of quantity. First is make your own contribution as informative as is required. Provide all the information which is necessary for the purpose of the current exchange. Don't leave out anything important. Second, do not make your contribution more informative than is required. Leave out any unnecessary details that aren't important to the current exchange. For example, based on the maxims of quantity, if someone asks you, "How do I get from here to the library?" your expected answer should contain enough information for them to understand how to get to the library, but no more information than that. Second maxim is the maxims of quality, or be truthful. There is one super maxim of quality, which is try to make your contribution one that is true. Furthermore, based on this super maxim, there are two more specific maxims of quality. First, do not say what you believe to be false. Avoid stating information that you believe might be wrong, unless there is some compelling reason to do so. If you do choose to include it, then provide a disclaimer that points your doubts regarding this information. Second, do not say for which you lack evidence. Avoid including information that you can back up with supporting evidence. If you do choose to include such information for some reason, provide a disclaimer that points out your doubts. Third is maxim of relation, or be relevant. There is one maxim of relation, which is be relevant. Make sure that all the information you provide is relevant to the current exchange. Omit irrelevant information. In his book, Grice uses the following analogy to describe or illustrate the importance of this maxim. I expect a partner's contribution to be appropriate to the immediate needs at each stage of the transaction. If I am mixing ingredients for a cake, I do not expect to be handed a good book or even an oven cloth. Last maxim is the maxims of manner, or be clear. There are various additional maxims of manner that are based on this super maxim. Grice lists 4 specific ones in his original work. First, avoid obscurity of expression. Avoid language which is difficult to understand, such as because it contains words that the listener doesn't know. Second, avoid ambiguity. Avoid ambiguous language which can be interpreted in multiple ways, and which therefore makes it difficult for your recipient to understand which or what exactly you're trying to say. Third, be brief. Provide information in a concise manner that allows your recipient to focus on the key details. Last is be orderly. Provide information in an order that makes sense and makes it easy for your recipient to process it. Take note, unlike the previous maxims, which have to do primarily with what is said, the maxims of manner have to do with how it is.
So that's the 4 conversational maxims of cooperative principles. So stay tuned for the next presenter.
Good day, everyone! I am Miss Geraldine Orsinado, and the assigned subtopic that I will going to discuss this day is about the observations on the cooperative principles. So, let's begin!
Here are some thoughts on the cooperative principle from some acknowledged sources on the subject.
Okay, so let's have the first one. It is from the Logic and Conversation by H. Poole Greets. We might then formulate a rough general principle which participants will be expected to observe. So expected or ceteris paribus. So if we say ceteris paribus, it is a Latin phrase that generally means all other things being equal. So make your conversational contribution such as is required at that stage at which it occurs by the accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged. One might label this the cooperative principle.
Okay, there are 4 categories of the cooperative principle. So those are the quantity, quality, relation, and manner, as been discussed on the previous discussion. It is obvious that the observance of some of these maxims is a matter of less urgency than is the observance of others. A man who has expressed himself with undue prolixity would, in general, be open to milder comment than would a man who has said something he believes to be false. Indeed, it might be felt that the importance of at least the first maxim of quality is such that it should not be included in a scheme of the kind constructing. Other maxims come into operation only on the assumption that this maxim of quality is satisfied. While this may be correct so far as the generation of implicators is concerned, it seems to play a role not totally different from the other maxims, and it will be convenient for the present at least to treat it as a member of the list of maxims.
Next, it is from the Communication and Reference by Aloysius Martinich. The sum and substance of the cooperative principle might be put this way. Do whatever is necessary to achieve the purpose of your talk. Don't do anything that will frustrate that purpose. The cooperative principle directs us to make our conversational contributions such as are required by the accepted purpose of the conversation. More specifically, the speaker should adopt the style of his utterance to the conditions under which the conversation takes place, to the age, social standing, and intellectual level of his hearers, and so on, since by doing so he makes it more likely that the common purpose will be achieved. Next, it is from the Stuff of Thought by Steven Pinker. People undoubtedly can be tight-lipped, long-winded, mendacious, cavalier, obscure, ambiguous, verbose, rambling, or off topic. But on closer examination, they are far less so than they could be, given the possibilities. Because human hearers can count on some degree of adherence to the maxims, they can read between the lines without unintended ambiguities and connect the dots when they listen and read.
Thank you for listening. I hope you've learned a lot. And for now, let's proceed to the next presenter.
Good day everyone, I am Arani Villanueva and now let's have the continuation of our report. Cooperation versus agreeableness.
What is cooperation? Cooperation is a technique of sharing information in a non-threatening and a polite manner, while agreeableness is a tendency toward reactive cooperation. Istvan believes that cooperative principle isn't about positive or socially smooth or agreeable, but it is an idea that when someone speaks, they have the expectation as well as the intention of communicating why they are engaging in the communication. Likewise, they expect the person to whom they're speaking to facilitate the effort. Cooperative principle keeps the conversation going even if individuals are aggressive, self-serving, and egotistic. That is why even people fight or disagree to the point that those engaged in the conversation are being less than pleasant or cooperative, they still continue their conversation because cooperative principle maintains the flow of dialogue. And now let's have an example. Jack Reacher's telephone conversation. The operator answered and I asked for showmaker and I got transferred, maybe elsewhere in the building or the country or the world. And after a bunch of clicks and hisses and some long minutes of dead air, showmaker came in the line and said, "Yes, this is Jack Reacher," I said. "Where are you? Don't you have all kinds of automatic machines to tell you that?" "Yes," he said. "You're in Seattle in a payphone down by the fish market." In the following dialogue, we find that the conversation go better because they're already cooperating. Istvan noted that it is important to maintain the purpose or the main point of communication because, as what I have said earlier, cooperative principle, according to Istvan, is not all about being positive or socially smooth or agreeable, but it is an idea that when someone speaks, they have a desire to communicate as well as an expectation to do so.
Hello everyone. Allow me to introduce to you myself again. I am Regin Libertino Soyosa, and this time I am going to elucidate to you the lighter side of the cooperative principle. Now, as you can see, there is this so-called conversation here, and allow me to read this to you. This conversation started with Sheldon saying, "I've been giving the matter some thought, and I think I'd be willing to be a house pet to a race of super intelligent aliens." Leonard responded, "Interesting." Sheldon replied, "Ask me why." Leonard's second response, "Do I have to?" And this conversation ended with Sheldon saying, "Of course, that's how you move a conversation forward." Now, I have a question for you. Is this conversation an example of cooperative principle or not? Well, for me, it is. If we are just going to focus on the second response of Leonard, of course, we can definitely say that there's sarcasm because his first response was a positive one, and also he even stated the word interesting. But we have to remember that cooperative principle is not about being positive or always achieving that perfect smooth communication. It's about how you try to reconnect with that person, remain cooperative, and keeping that connection, of course. What makes this conversation cooperative principle is how Sheldon handled the situation, how he tried to keep their conversation going by simply applying the Grice's conversational maxims. Now, we are going to talk about flouting of the maxims. Flouting of the maxims is to deliberately fail to observe a maxim in order to create an implicature. A cooperative speaker can intentionally disobey a maxim as long as he or she or the context provides enough indicators for the hearer to notice it.
The first one is flouting the maxim of quality. So we do have an example here. Teacher to a student who arrives late more than 10 minutes to the class meeting. "Wow, you're such a punctual fellow. Welcome to the class." Student: "Sorry sir, it won't happen again." So it is obvious that the teacher said that because he tried to tease the student and he's exploiting the maxim of quality and which is being truthful to be sarcastic. Next to that is flouting the maxim of quantity. Since we know that quantity refers to the exchange of required information, this example here can better help us understand flouting the maxim of quantity. The conversation started with Ali asking, "Where are you, Mahid?" And Mahid replied, "I'm in my clothes." What happened here is that Ali tried flouting the maxim of quantity because the information is insufficient for him. Even if that's something that he doesn't really want to find out, he still knows that Mahid was just trying to give a response that is humorous. So flouting the maxim quantity can also be humorous. The third one is flouting the maxim of relevance. Bob: "What were you and Anna talking about? You were looking at me all the time." Mary: "Oh, well, why don't we go get something to drink?" As you can observe, Mary is simply not answering Bob's question. He tried to talk about something else to avoid hurting Bob's feelings. And the last one is flouting the maxim of manner. Wife: Darling, what's the story with that new watch on your wrist? Husband: Oh, this watch you're talking about? I knew it. I told my boss that my wife would be curious when she sees it. Oh, honey, you have no idea how much they're satisfied with my performance lately. I feel like it would be better if the husband directly told his wife about the truth, that it was an award. However, he chose to flout the maxim of manner to make sure that his wife believes that the watch given to him is from a person that she also knew, and that is for him to also make sure that his wife will not get jealous.
Summary and conclusion. There are these set of observations that tell how people communicate when they wanted to relay a so-called message or be understood by their listeners or audiences. You can apply the Grice's conversational maxims to surely achieve that effective communication. And now we are going to mention them again. The first one is quantity, exchange of required informations. Next is quality. The speaker should always tell the truth. Third to the last one, manner. You should never be ambiguous. And the last one, relevance. Thank you so much everyone for listening to us. I believe that you've learned a lot. Let us going to apply all of our learnings as English majors and also for us to become effective speakers as well. Again, thank you so much for listening and may God bless us all.